Welcome to the Social for Brokers podcast. Today we're going to be talking to Chris Schutrups from the Mortgage Hut. Now, I've actually had Chris on here before, and he was on episode 75, which is around about a year ago. It's absolutely flown by. And we talked to him about how he generates 1,000 leads a month. So if you haven't listened to that one, please go back to it, take some notes. There's loads of value in that one, but there's going to be even more in this one. So the reason I wanted to get Chris back on is to talk through some of the strategies that he uses, not just for leads, but how he manages over 400 staff in over 7 different companies that he runs. And that's a mixture of leisure, hospitality and financial services businesses. And he has investments in other businesses as well. So Chris works 27 hours a day at the minute. Doesn't sleep. He's all over. I got a voice note from it at 9:30 last night saying, I'm just about to put my phone down, Chris. Just want to check we're okay for tomorrow. So he's always working.
I actually, by the way, didn't put my phone down at that point. I have to be honest with you. I was still voice noting people at 11 o'clock last night. So,
are you a voice note or a texter?
Yeah, normally voice noting. You know, I do a bit of both. You know, I love sending voice notes. I'm not as keen receiving them sometimes. But, you know, I feel like voice notes, you get a lot, you know, the challenge I have sometimes is I can be a bit blunt because, you know, I get about 3,500 notifications a day, which are across WhatsApp and emails. And so, you know, a quick voice note, I think, still carries a lot of my enthusiasm across, whereas a sort of one-line response can sometimes come across a bit direct. And
that's a really good point. Yeah, it gives a bit of personality. The one thing I am looking forward to, and I've heard WhatsApp are trying to develop it, is a voice note to text option. Because
that's a great idea.
Yeah,
isn't it?
I have a few clients that will message me. One of my good friends, Sam, she's an estate agent. Now, she messages me voice notes with ideas. Just walking the dog, had a great idea. This, and this. And I have to listen to it and then type it back out ready for the idea.
Yeah,
so
I know what you mean completely. Well, it sounds like a good friend to start with.
Yes, send me nice voice notes like that.
I learned how to do video voice notes the other day.
My God. So, only last week I found it.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I sent it to one of my business partners and he was like, please don't get hooked on these. I can't handle you in video as well as voice. So
what you do, guys, is at the bottom right where there's the mic, you press the camera and you press and hold it and it brings up like a little circle and you can speak into that and send that across.
Or something, and we're only a couple of minutes in.
I tell you what, guys, if you are listening to this, I want people to message me on social, whether you like voice notes or you prefer messages. I'd love to hear that.
I think this is a very dividing topic. You know, I have some friends who absolutely hate me just for the purpose that I send voice notes on.
Really?
Yeah, so I think you're going to get some comments for sure.
Definitely send them through, guys. I'd love to hear it. But today, we're not just going to be talking about WhatsApp voice notes. We are going to be talking about staff structure, automation, delegation, outsourcing, time management. Obviously, Chris has got a lot of really good tips for managing over 400 staff over 7 different companies. So get comfy. We're going to have a good chat to Chris. Before you do that, before we get into the episode, if you haven't signed up to our email marketing list yet, we deliver social media hacks, strategies and tips every single Wednesday. We deliver to your inbox, loads of free tips. If you go to socialforbrokers.com/blog, you can sign up for free there. So, Chris, welcome back to the podcast. Thanks very much for coming on.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Good. Good to see you in your office. So, this is your man cave, sorry.
Yes, we had this conversation before where I have a massive purpose-built office at the end of my garden and I'm banned from there because my wife and her assistant sound far too loud, which is, you know, as we know, probably pretty true. So this is a cross between my games room and my, I have, like, you can't see it, but a wall of monitors in front of me that I work from. So I get left it. It's essentially a glorified garage, I would say. But, you know, I always say to my wife, I don't know why we have such a big mortgage when I spend 99% of my time just sat in the garage.
Move in there. And behind him, if you're watching it on YouTube, now these screens behind him, they might just look like 4 normal screens. They're 4 65-inch TVs. So you can imagine the size of that wall. So that's where you and your little lad play Fortnite or watch YouTube videos.
So we can get 4 games of Fortnite going at once. We can get one big movie going. So, you know, it works well. It's
Love it. Let's get into business then. So, For anybody that hasn't spoken to you before, hasn't met you before, can you give us a bit of a background as to how you set the Mortgage Hut up, please?
Yeah, so 2011, I started the mortgage business. My background is I started as a stockbroker in the city. I went on to work in retail banking, and then I started my career, like many of your listeners, in corporate estate agency as a mortgage advisor. Whilst I was there, I met a really enthusiastic branch manager who said, "Look, I'm starting my own estate agency, and I think you should do our mortgages." And I thought, bloody hell, because I was top in the region, I thought, I'm going to have gold-plated teeth, I'm going to be driving a Bentley. I'm 21 at the time. I'm thinking, this is it. I have made it. And the first week that I started the mortgage business, he took an employed role, and suddenly I was sat there thinking, this is a problem, because I had a pregnant girlfriend, I had a rented house, and I had no income and no lead sources. And so that's where the business started. It was just me and my Dachshund hound dog. I had a sausage dog before they were fashionable. And most certainly a 6'7", 20-stone man was not a fashionable person to have a sausage dog at the time. But it was me and him together in this journey. And the mortgage business has peaks and troughs, like most people who are listening, whether they're at the beginning of their journey or on their way through it. It's gone through different iterations. We've adopted technology as we've gone. At our peak, we were about 27 advisors back in 2016. We're just about to hit 25 again now. I guess the big difference in our model is we started with self-employed advisors. Now most of our advisors, nearly all of them, are fully employed by the businesses. So yeah, we're a busy business. Our team, we get somewhere around about 100 inquiries a day. So my team are busy, they're exceptionally hardworking, and they strive to really, like all of the people listening, offer an incredible customer experience to our customers.
Wow. So if you're listening, I've got that figure wrong at the beginning, because it's 100 per day, which is your podcast from episode 75 is actually 3,000 per month.
That's it. Yeah.
Go back and listen to that, because there's 3 times the value now, because I said 1,000 and now it's 3,000.
It sounds like a big headache when you start to think on it like that. But yeah, part of the journey that we've been on, I guess, over last year, like a lot of brokers, there's been uncertainty in the market. What my role has been is to try and continue to drive the quality of those leads forward and convert more of the opportunities as a business. So we're on that journey.
And you've picked out a lot of bits of software that have allowed you to do that. And we won't go into those pieces of software, but from me speaking to you just for half an hour before we had a chat, you've got your finger to the pulse as to new technologies. And it seems to me you're always a person that's moving forward. You don't rest on your laurels. We're always looking new ways to generate leads. How does a mortgage broker have that mindset? Is it something you can learn, or is it something that you need within you?
I think in reality, as a business owner, to start with, or a business person, it's really important you understand marketing, and taking a bit of time. The generation before us, you needed to go to university and you were taught stuff that was probably already 20 years old. And nowadays we have super powerful computers in our hands. We have access to more information than we could ever digest. And so it's about, I guess marketing is a passion for me. I enjoy it. I enjoy trying to acquire customers. And, you talk about finger on the pulse. Actually, it's just trying to understand when you're discovering stuff that works, that is relatively still new to the market. It makes business a lot easier, because if you're doing stuff that people were doing 10 years ago that now everyone's doing, in some ways you're a little bit late to the party. And it's hard to stand out from that noise. So I still remember, believe it or not, when I started this business, and the generation before me was saying, we used to just call our mortgage company AAA Financial Solutions, and then we were the first one in the Yellow Pages Thompson Local, because it was done by alphabet, and I was like, that is so clever, but now that doesn't work, and it's just about YouTube, podcasts, stuff like this. I think I've said to you before, Chris, actually I listen to a lot of content, and I just really want to take one thing away from it. I don't need to take an hour's worth of information, because I can tell you, I've listened to your podcast before, for sure. If I listen to an hour-long podcast, I definitely will spend the next month trying to implement all of the stuff that people suggest. It's just those little bits that are going to work for you. Some will work for your business, some won't, and it's just understanding, what your options are, I guess.
the snippets. And we spoke about this before we came on the podcast, that all these things that I'm talking about on the podcast, Chris was like, I listened to yours and there's some bits I can pick out, some bits that won't work.
Yeah.
It's not one size fits all, and we know that, and especially being mortgage brokers, you know one size fits all doesn't apply to your clients, so it shouldn't apply to you. So please don't think that you have to do everything that we talk about. Pick one or two things, same as social media channels. Don't try and do all 5 or 6. Just pick one and go deep on it, and then get the confidence in that area.
Yeah,
so,
I agree with that completely, because actually the truth is you can actually get paralysis of doing anything, and you're better doing 1 or 2 things. And you know what, if it doesn't go quite right, who cares? You know, forget about egos, we only find the real winning strategies by testing and trying different stuff, really.
Exactly, yeah. And I wasn't going to ask this, but how many did you try any businesses before? Like, did you have any businesses before and you failed with them, and then you learned? So it's like a flashback when he said that.
Business is about failure. You know, I'm programmed, I guess, to think about successes, but I regularly felt, you know, I disposed of 3 businesses last year. Some of those were loss making. You know, some of them were a headache. You know, and so you do have to. You know, someone said to me about businesses, if you're going to dispose of them before, what's your thought process? And I guess there's 3 things. There's your brain, there's your heart, and there's thinking, and in the heart I would put ego as well, and then there's thinking about the people who work within those businesses. And so, you know, it's important, you know, as you scale and build businesses, it's important to realise that the accountability, you know, and the weight of the shoulders that you do carry, because everyone needs you to make good decisions so that they can pay their mortgage, pay their rent, pay their bills, you know, and not have a business where you recruit 10 people and then 5. You know, I think if I look back to December 2022, a lot of the larger corporates, Liz trusted her budget. The corporates, frankly, like pooed their pants. You know, I'm not sure if I'm allowed to swear. You know, and guess what? Okay. You know, they got rid of half their staff. You know, I can think of a hybrid estate agency model who had just started a mortgage broking arm only 3 months before and got rid of everyone. And you know, that is terrible business, frankly, because you know you should make long-term decisions, and sometimes those things can't be helped, and sometimes you need to make difficult decisions to save other people's jobs. But for sure, when I recruit or when I expand or when I make decisions within the business, I try and make them as ethically and responsibly as possible for a long-term view of the business, because I appreciate that my colleagues do an incredibly hard job and work incredibly hard across all our businesses, and I genuinely believe that, and they rely on me to make as many sound judgments as possible, and I do get it wrong sometimes. You know, we were thinking about changing a provider of a product within the mortgage business last week, you know, and I went down the road and I thought, oh, this looks good. Someone who doesn't do mortgages, I don't speak to customers. And then when I presented it to some of our team members, they were like, no, this isn't good. And, you know, instead of being like, you know what, I'm going to stick with this because it's my decision, it's my way or no way, I sat back and said, okay, well, you know, okay, let's make a U-turn here.
Taking the feedback.
You know, and you have to be able to make decisions. But, you know, I think, yeah.
And that's where talking about business and failures, you need to experiment with things, but especially people with teams, I think it's really useful to be able to lean on those people and take their expertise, because especially if you're running a business, say 3 to 10 members of staff, it's very easy to say, it's my business, that's the way I'm doing it. Whereas those 3 to 10 staff that you have are gold. They are speaking to clients. I remember story about Starbucks when during the recession in 2008, what the CEO did was visited all of the franchises and went into the stores and said to the people serving the coffee, right, how do we make more business? How do we do it? And that's, I think, the best way to do it, because he's not sat in his ivory tower thinking, oh, if we put people's names on the cups, we're going to sell more coffee. He went and spoke to the people about it.
And it's the message, actually, you know, you said, this is my business and this is the way that we do that. Actually, our job as business leaders is to be chief storyteller. Okay, and part of that is you can say, "This is my business. This is how I want to do it." But it's the messaging in which you say it. It's not. You don't have to be aggressive and my way or no way. It's your job to effectively communicate to people. If I want to change something in the business, okay, fine. It's hopefully going to benefit the business. But what's the outcome for my colleagues? Well, hopefully they're going to help more customers, which is a great thing. They're hopefully going to earn more income, and/or hopefully it's going to make their life easier. And so actually, if I say I'm going to introduce this process because it's going to make your life easier, you're going to be able to do more mortgages, help more customers, and ultimately earn more income to help your families. I've just communicated that it's my business and I'm going to do it in a way where my colleagues will understand the logical idea. And, when I've made change, I started as a bank manager at 18, okay? And I can tell you, you have zero credibility as an 18-year-old bank manager with a 40-year-old cashier who's seen everything. Okay, but what I used to do was I used to say, okay, if I'm going to change something here, I will do it first. Because if I do it and it works, you cannot tell me it does not work.
Right,
and my messaging, I don't do mortgages anymore, so I can't say to the advisor, look, I'm going to say this to a customer because I'm not regulated or authorised to do so. However, what I will say to my colleagues is, look, I will ask you to do this for 4 weeks, okay? And I believe it'll work, but you've worked with me long enough that if this doesn't work, I promise you I'll untangle it all. And I'll put it right and it'll be fine. And when you can say that to people, and when you do that enough times and your team have been with you long enough, because I still have my first advisor I recruited in 2011. My team are relatively well established. They know how I work, and we talked a little bit about working hours. When I recruit people into the business, I say to them, you're going to work probably harder than you've ever worked before. But one thing I promise you is you won't work harder than me. And when as a leader you're able to show people that you work hard, that you're there at 10 o'clock and I'm up at 6 and I'm working hard and I'm solving their problems and I'm supporting them, actually you create a lot of goodwill amongst a team of people. And if you can tell them that story and that vision of what we're trying to achieve and they're all on board with that, then actually leading a team is exceptionally easy.
I love that. I haven't even asked you any questions about leadership, but just these little snippets, guys, that you are listening to, I think they're absolute gold. I think that leads me into one of the questions I was going to ask you, talking about working 6 a.m. till 10 at night.
Yeah.
Can you talk to us about what your normal week looks like? So Monday I do this, Tuesday I do this, because you've got so many businesses you look after. How does it all fit together?
And that's very true. And I suppose telling you my personality type to start with, I'm a bit of a control freak and I need to know what's going on. I don't need to know everything that's going on, but I need to understand. So I work off a diary. My whole life works off a diary, whether it be personal or business. And then what I do is I have fairly prescribed structures, which can be moved around to, because you do get crises in businesses that you need to deal with. But generally speaking, on a Monday, I will spend the day going through data. I will spend time just getting on top of anything that's coming over the weekend, making sure that I'm prepared and planned for the rest of the week. I will, meet with some of our teams within the business. So we have a brand called Police Mortgages, where we work with a number of the UK's police forces and federations. So I'll meet with that team and understand. I don't lead the meeting. My team are instructed to send updates to my assistant by Friday of all of their police forces and federations, which gives me a chance to read them. And then I ask them amongst us to talk about their successes, where they're at, what they need to do, if they need any support centrally from either me or one of our colleagues who are in marketing or, sending out sporks they like in cups and mugs and pens and stuff. And then I'll meet with our new homes team because we have house builders that we deal with and understand how they're busy. Do they need me to reach out? Do they need me to go and have lunch with a developer that maybe we're not getting enough leads from? So that's my Monday. And then on a Tuesday, I actually manage all of the mortgage advisors on performance. So I will meet with all of our mortgage advisors. It depends on whether it's the start of the month or in the month. So today I will have done 15-minute check-ins with every advisor, just seeing how they are, seeing where the performance is. we create. So on a Monday, there is an assistant in the business who will create manually. By the way, a lot of our processes are automated, but because systems are so fragmented, we create a manual KPI dashboard for every advisor in the business. So I'm able to see every metric, whether it be number of calls, appointments, and just to give us a bit of a flow. Now, we don't go through that in a corporate way. We sort of say, how's it going? Are you on target? Are you not on target? What do you need? What's going well? What's not going well? Can I support you with anything? Because I have been an advisor before. So all of those things, I guess. So that'll be my Tuesday generally, is I'll go through and manage the teams. A Wednesday, I then work mainly across our hospitality portfolios. So I own some restaurants, some bars, and I will go and spend an hour with the management teams in each of those, have a look at our strategy, our takings, our performance. Thursday.
Please tell me you get to eat in those restaurants at lunch.
I am very well fed. I have to say, one of our restaurants won Best Restaurant at the British Restaurant Awards. It's in the
wow! Congratulations!
Thank you very much. That's all the team, by the way. I claim a lot of victory and do nothing.
Yeah, you don't get in the kitchen. No, it's the proper chefs. Yeah,
we don't want to kill everyone, I just go around claiming glory. And so Wednesday's a lot of hospitality, and I will sometimes have video calls in the afternoon with our police federations. Thursday is a day of meetings normally, so I will get my assistant to book either face-to-face or video meetings. So anyone that wants to reach out to me, like lenders or partners like law firms, it may be internal meetings. So I basically have about 8 slots on a Thursday that can be booked and are normally booked relatively far in advance. And then a Friday, I will leave and I'll either go out and see key stakeholders like house builders, federations, marketing partners, or I will do some admin stuff, or, as anyone who knows me knows that I travel quite a lot and work remotely, so maybe, because all of the stuff that I've just described to you, I can do, even the hospitality businesses, I can zoom in as long as I'm willing to work remotely. So I spent a month in Thailand, and I did all of this stuff in a similar way to how we record this podcast via, using technology. And then Friday, I might spend doing admin, doing something else, trying to catch up on stuff, So that's generally the structure of my week.
Wow. So quite a lot of to break down there. A few questions that I have is, what happens when you go on holiday?
So I have to say, and there will be some lifestyle coaches. I'm probably one of all your guests that's been on, I'm probably one of the best delegators to start with. So I can't remember if I said it earlier or off air, but I get somewhere around about 3,500 notifications a day.
So how do we outsource those then as business owners? How do we, when our phone's pinging, our emails are going, how do you effectively delegate, and how do you find the right people to outsource that to?
Yeah, well, I have, a number of assistants who sit behind me who do a lot of the hard work. So, I'm a lot of forwarding. I have different assistants for different tasks, whether it be scheduling meetings, following meetings up for me. It may be putting together data for me to understand. What I know is I'm the inconsistent thing in the process. So in nearly all of the businesses, the processes do not rely on me. And even to the extent that I do not produce any reports. So if I want a report, I will have them sent to me. So when I wake up in the morning and I turn my phone on, I already know what the business wrote yesterday. I know what the business is on written. I know the business's protection penetration rate. I know who is off from the business on that day so that I don't harass them via WhatsApp as soon as I wake up and they're actually trying to enjoy a nice day of rest. I know my first appointment for the day, and then any of the presentations I'm due to make that day, I will have a link to be able to review them. So an example is on a Tuesday morning when I'm doing the management of the advisors, I have a sales presentation that I give every Tuesday to the whole team. Now that is prepared for me in advance. I do not prepare that. I do not put any of the information or data into that presentation. all I do is I will review it I actually get it on a Monday, but I normally will review it on a Tuesday morning, and I will drop in the information, the key points that I have omitted on telling an assistant to put in, or that I want to change, and then I will present that. And a lot of the time, a lot of the data within the presentation, when my colleagues see it, it's also the first time that I see that data, unless I've really scrutinised it. So, but I have some, and being honest with you, I get lots of reports every day. A lot of them I don't look at, because I don't need to look at them. But if I want to look at them, they're there. And, it's just understanding, I can go from telling you how many mortgage appointments the firm did yesterday to telling you how many spaghetti bolognese were sold in a restaurant. And that's the type of, and, it's just about having the data, the information, being able to, you generally have checks and balances across all the businesses, so that if it steps outside. And I have, one example would be, in one of our businesses, we use a bit of software for our remote workers where it takes a screenshot every 2 minutes. Okay, what I can tell you is I don't review those screenshots ever, but there is a process in our business where once a week someone reviews all of the screenshots to make sure that people are not sat watching YouTube or watching pornography or, online gambling or whatever it may be. And actually, we very, very, very rarely find anyone, but it's a little bit like having CCTV. The fact that our colleagues know it's there, probably sharpens the mind a little bit as well.
Awesome. Okay, that's really interesting. That. So let's take it back, because there's not going to be many people listening to this that are managing 400 staff. Okay, let's take it back to, you are somebody who is an owner of a business, and they are managing 4 mortgage brokers and 2 admin staff. Okay, how can they effectively delegate tasks for people? And how do they set those things up? Where do they find assistance? Just trying to create a bit of a blueprint for somebody that is thinking, I would love to be able to outsource that kind of stuff. Where do I even start?
So, first of all, business owners need to understand one thing. No one is going to do the job as good as you are. Okay? You've got to understand that, okay? Because I have incredible people that work in my business, but ultimately, as a business owner, I take the highs and the lows, the rough and the smooth. If I make, £50,000 in a month in profit, that's my reward for working this hard. On the same account, if I lose £50,000 in a month, that's my problem. It's not the employee's problem. And it's exactly the same as I was messaging you at 9 o'clock. I was messaging people this morning early. But actually, I just expect my colleagues to work exceptionally hard for the hours that they're paid. To give it everything, and that is all. And so when you start to delegate tasks, you've got to be reasonable. Okay, don't be delegating tasks and expecting people to do, 70-hour days, or expecting them to do it, you've got to just first of all realise that they're going to do a great job, but it might not be to the standard that you want. But that's okay, because it's better than what your customers expect. That would be my first thing.
That's a good point. Yeah,
that's a really tough thing to do, and I've been there, I've done it, and you've just got to, let a little bit of the reins free, okay? And you've got to empower your team members, and that sort of leads on to the next thing, because as you build a team, you've got to know that you're only as good as your worst person.
Okay, yep.
And I used to do, and bless her soul, my mum's not with me anymore, but I used to say, do the mum test, okay? If you wouldn't let your mum deal with your advisor or your admin, or in another business of ours, if you wouldn't let them deal with your mum, you need to get rid of them. It's that simple. And I don't want to be the grim reaper of getting loads of people sacked across businesses, okay? But the bottom line is, if you wouldn't let your mum deal with them, get rid of them now, okay? Because you're only as good as your worst person, okay? And so that's what you need to do. And then it's, before you start delegating, before you start doing stuff, just make sure communication's a really important thing across all the businesses. Let's make sure everyone knows what we're striving to achieve, what we're trying to do, why it's important, and what we're doing. And then, when I still do this very regularly, okay, it's about saying, okay, what do I do at the moment? You've got to think, if you are paid £1,250 as, I don't know, a surgeon, £1,250 a day as a surgeon, you do not need to be typing up your notes, okay? And you do not need to be giving the injections and the medication. You will let someone who's maybe on £500 a day do a job instead of you on £1,250. And guess what? That £500 a day person doesn't need to do everything either. That might be a £100 a day person. And you've just got to understand and value your own time. And as a business owner, sometimes we get a little bit stuck in thinking about, oh, well, how much does this cost? What does this cost? How much more income can you generate by delegating it? And undoubtedly, most of the time, and I hope so, but most of the time, the best person in the business is the business owner. And so you don't need to be doing admin at 9 o'clock at night. You should have really, ideally, and I know how hard it is. I've been there. I've been on the verge of nearly failing in a mortgage business. Trust me, I know. But you don't need to be uploading the documents at 10 o'clock at night, when you've just put your kids to bed and you're going to have to be up and you're worried about this lender pulling their rates. You don't need to do that, okay? There are ways and means. There are people out there that can help you, and there's something for all budgets, okay? And so I guess it's about trying to set up processes. One, that means that you don't do it. But when you set up these processes, it's really important that you put in a fail-safe so that in 12 months' time, when you're not checking that process is done religiously, that it's still done religiously. Does that make sense?
So the standard operating procedures, this is what Chris talked to me about. Because I text Chris and I'm like, Chris, I've got this issue. What do you recommend? He's like, right, do this, do that. And this is why I wanted to get him on the podcast to talk about this stuff. The standard operating procedures allow a blueprint, so it doesn't matter who picks up that bit of paper, they know step by step. And if people are doing standard operating procedures on here, for example, it might be emailing somebody their agreement in principle, as simple as that. This is how you open Outlook. This is how you attach it. This is the wording we want you to use. You guys can use something called Loom, which is Loom. Was that what you were going to say?
My own heart. I was about to come in with this mystery secret. Loom is...
you tell us.
Well, I was about to say, we use assistants here in the UK. We have virtual assistants who don't deal with client data. And actually, it's really simple. Loom is a bit of software. It's free or paid for, depending on how many videos you have, but very, very cheap. And it allows you to be able to record your face if you want to, record your screen. And guess what? You can say, okay, well, in your example, this is how we're going to send an email to a client who's just signed up for a mortgage, the welcome email. Okay, and you send the link of the video, and it doesn't matter how competent or incompetent they are. They can watch that video 1 time or 100 times. It's there for life. And if you then have recruitment, if you're thinking about a small mortgage business and you recruit a new advisor and you want to show them the way that you do stuff, well, bloody hell, you've got a million things to do. You don't need to show them. You can save all of these links. And what I have, very simply, is I have an email that I send to our new recruits when they join us that is very long, that has loads of videos, loads of guides, loads of useful websites, all of the stuff that they need to register for. And you know what I say? Work through that email in the first week. Watch the videos, understand how we work, understand the process. It has in there, in that email, like call recordings from advisors on what a good fact find looks like. It has a bit of an intro from, our compliance colleagues telling us how to do stuff. So, but Loom is a great way of doing it. You don't have to spend forever. I literally use Loom because our colleagues work across the UK, although they're employed. They're from Wales up to the north of England, down to Essex, and I'm here down in the south of the UK in Southampton. I will record. So last night I recorded a Loom at like 7 o'clock, and I said to the team, I was like, look guys, I want you to use this time between 9 and 10 to make sure that we're on our CRM, make sure that we've followed everyone up, and make sure that we don't miss any opportunities. Send it out. It took me 30 seconds to record. We have a WhatsApp group in the team. And we have email, so I'll put it in the WhatsApp group. Send it via email, and guess what? By the time everyone wakes up at 8 or starts coming on at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, they watch it and they know what we're trying to do.
Love it. I think I'm actually going to do an episode on this. So we've got, if anybody listened to this, some of the new episodes I'm doing is Broker's Brew, and what this is I'm giving tips. For as long as it takes me to drink a brew. So I'm going to do an episode specifically on Loom and talk to people about how to use it. So keep an eye out for that. But Loom is an incredible piece of software.
One of the top 5 bits of software product tools that we use, and it is the sky's the limit really on. And if you're managing teams, it's a great way of being able to send out a message that everyone sees, that everyone understands as well, where it's sincere. Because if you're sending, one challenge is running sales teams is you want to say to people, look, well done, you're doing a really great job, but also we need to be doing better and we want to achieve more. And when you put that into an email, sometimes it can come across a little bit ungrateful. It can come across a little bit RC, not appreciated. Whereas you get across your real sincerity and
a bit of personality as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's really good.
So
honest.
listen out for the Broker's Brew. I'm going to talk about Loom because there's so many other things I want to speak about here, but I'm biting my tongue because I don't want to go on to other things. Okay, so the final thing I want to talk to you about is how do you manage your day? So how do you make sure that there's no creep of appointments? Is it important to have a dead stop on appointments? Where do you find the time? What time does your day start? What time does it end? Can you give people any tips to managing their daily diary?
It's just about being disciplined, is the truth, and not being over optimistic on what you can achieve. And you need to leave time. So, for example, nearly every appointment I do, apart from check-ins with advisors, is at least an hour long. Because as you can imagine from this podcast, I love to talk, and I always find lots of things to talk about with people. So, and then it's about leaving time. All those notifications and stuff. I will leave half an hour between appointments to allow me to get up, have a comfort break, go get a coffee. Maybe get some lunch, get a sandwich. I work from home a lot of the time, so I'm normally raiding the fridge, and it allows me to just get on top of my emails and WhatsApps, forward stuff on. If there's something super urgent, I can deal with it. But actually, the reality is there's not a lot. I don't deal with customers, so I don't get a lot of urgent stuff. If something comes to me, if it's really urgent, I can get a colleague to deal with it straight away. If it's not, I'll find time that day. And it's also about, one of my things is I have what I started by describing many years ago as email OCD.
Okay.
Now WhatsApp OCD as well. So I am a horrible creature that archives everything. So I will know that I'm on top of stuff because if I have replied to, for example, you, Chris, about something, I will archive that message and it will go out of my WhatsApp. So then I'm hopefully at the end of the day, I just have a couple of messages. If in an ideal world, none, and then I can start the next day, and I'm not trying to work out, because what generally happens, as we know, is the oldest message is at the bottom, and then you forget about it because you're trying to get all the stuff at the top, and then I have trained one of my assistants to go through my email inbox and take out all the, I still get lender updates for advisors that left 10 years ago where you're trying to subscribe and you need their login. So they'll go through and do that. If a BDM comes and says, I want to have a meeting, they'll go through. And I won't even see that email because it will be gone by the time that I check it, really.
Wow, incredible. That's a lot of people probably listen to this if they want to build a business of that size, aspiring to do that. But I think the main takeaways from this is try and delegate as much as you can. Find the people that are good that you can teach them how to do it, and utilise lots of technology to enable you to do that as well, the likes of Loom and those type of things. Okay, so as a thank you, we like to donate £10 to a charity of your choice. So which charity do you want us to make the donation to?
To the Thin Blue Line UK. They're a UK-based charity who support police officers and their families, so a cause close to my heart. So, thank you for your donation.
Perfect. Okay. And then the last thing that I want to finish on, we're going to go away from the strategy question because we've answered that before, and it would be all about SEO and PPC and the website. Yeah. I'm going to ask you, at what point does a one-person band as a mortgage broker, when should they look at hiring their next member of staff, and who should it be?
It's a great question, and actually there is, so I have my opinion, which I'll tell you for sure, but there are a couple of ways to skin a cat here. You could employ an admin who sits behind you, or a paraplanner. There's lots of people who are qualified in mortgages who actually don't really like talking to customers or selling to them or whatever it may be, and so someone who can competently submit application or get them ready to submit, should I say, for you to check and then submit and give the advice. It may, in reality, I think we all recruit that. It's easy in hindsight to sit there and go, oh, well, once you're at 80%, it's perfect. In reality, it's normally by the time that you're drowning that you start to think about these things. And then I think you always have to. A business of our size is pretty simple because I will recruit 2 or 3 people in at a time. One, hopefully all 3 make it, but if I recruited 8 people at once last year and I only lost one of them to go travelling, everyone else is still with the business now.
Wow.
I'll recruit some more in shortly. It's easier to layer it in. When you're a 1-2-man band, it's a scary prospect because do you have enough leads? Are you going to recruit the right person? How do you stop them from, taking your clients, doing this, doing that? And I think, if you're thinking about, and I'm going a little bit off piste with your question here, Chris, and I'm sorry.
No, go for it.
My number one advice, where I see people who have exceptionally successful businesses that have a value and others who don't, is it's about owning the client bank and owning the lead source. And you need to make sure that you have the ability to generate leads yourself, because if you say to someone, go out, bring your own leads, bring your client bank, work under me, what is it? What is the value that you're really giving them? Whereas if you're able to say, you're an amazing advisor, but you can't I'll generate the leads for you, you score the goals, and together we're a great team. Well, actually, that bit there is really about, you've got your value there. So I think you need to recruit when you are busy enough that you can't service the customers that you have. You may recruit someone in, for example, to deal with your client bank to start with on a lower salary, who can just give them a call, do the PTs, do the reviews if they need a remortgage. But it is important, there is it's a little bit like a step, okay? There is a point where you have to bring someone in and hand some business over, and you probably will take an income drop. When I stopped writing business in our business was when we had about 6 advisors, and I was writing 25 grand a month, and I was by far the biggest business writer. And when I stopped, it was a bit painful, but you do have to take a step back.
You have to take that on the chin a bit, and you can't take the 2 steps back to go the 1 step back to take 2 forwards in the long run.
Exactly. And just have faith in yourself. It's a lonely place running a business, okay? And you're going to spend a lot of time doubting yourself and second guessing yourself. And there's people like me that will come onto a podcast and give you all my opinions on what I think is great, but what really matters is your business deep down in your heart, okay? Your customers, and you need to just have a little bit of faith in yourself and go from there. And that would be my number 1 tip.
What an amazing way to finish this podcast. Chris, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it. If you go and connect with Chris on LinkedIn, that's where he's most active. And you're going to be doing a lot more podcasting and getting yourself out there as well. So you'll see loads of episodes with Chris talking about business in general, mortgage brokerage, whatever it may be. Follow him in LinkedIn, and I'm sure you'll get lots of value from his other appearances as well.
100%. And I absolutely love what I talk about. So connect with me if you want to talk. If I can ever offer advice, I'm here to help. So, I'd love to meet more of your listeners for sure.
Fantastic. Chris, thank you very much for today. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.